Hey my spooky little ghostly loves. Today I am doing another paranormal storytime video. These are literally my most requested video. I could be doing a story time or a Q&A or like a makeup tutorial, and in the comments there's always at least one person who's like, can you just do another paranormal story time? So I know I said I was going to take a little break from them because I was having some really weird stuff happen, but I just thought I would get back on here and tell you guys a couple of stories. I wanted to quickly say that today's video is actually a collaboration with Jessii V here on YouTube, and I love Jessii so much. She's such a positive and happy person. I just love happy people because happy people make me happy. But Jessii is doing a storytime video as well about something super creepy. If you guys want to head over to Jessii V's channel, then definitely check her out. I'll link it down below. So after my paranormal stories, you should definitely go and check hers out because the one that she was telling me about was so spooky, and I'm pretty sure it's just gonna scare everyone's pants right off. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and get into some stories from this incredibly haunted house that I used to live in. Now, I really briefly, am I like hitting the tripod? I have this really horrible habit of putting, I have like a collapsible table that I do all my makeup stuff at. I do this really adorable thing with the table where sometimes I put it too close to the tripod and I'm really animated in case you can't tell, and I'll just bump the table and it'll bump the tripod and then half my video isn't usable. What are you gonna do? I had a lot of experience with the paranormal from a very, very young age. My parents told me that like one of the first houses that they moved into when I was a baby, like not a baby, maybe like two-ish, as I was walking around and talking at this point, was I walked up to the fireplace in our new house, and it had been around since like, it was an old house. My parents loved it. They had always wanted one of those older houses with a lot of character and story to it. And I walked into the fireplace, and I had never done something like this before. And I acted like I was like talking to someone, and it was like I listened to someone. Like they said it was like watching someone listen to a conversation, except they couldn't hear the other part of the conversation. And then I said, oh, hi Colonel, it's nice to meet you. And like my dad was telling me he had never said that word around me. He had never, there had never been a colonel. There never ever had I heard that word. Anyways, my parents are like, who are you talking to there, honey? Like, what you doing? And I wouldn't answer them. I was like, like I'm talking to my friend. Like I literally shushed them, and I was in this conversation. And apparently I was like, well, my name is Lauren, and by the way, my real name is Lauren. I have been called Loey since I was like 17-ish, so it was a nickname my dad gave me. He's given me a lot of nicknames over the year, but at the time I was like, my name is Lauren, I'm 2, my parents and I just moved here, and we're so excited. Like I'm just like giving this ghost, it probably was not that articulate, but I was just giving this ghost like a whole rundown of like my life story, and I'm telling him the stuff that I like, and I'm acting like I'm answering yes or no questions. And obviously I have no recollection of this. I was 2. But at one point I got like visibly upset, and my parents were kind of like, is this an imaginary friend? Like they didn't know what to do, so they just kind of like sat off to the side. But I got visibly upset, and I was like, no, Colonel, like don't go, I want you to stay. And then I acted like I was listening to someone talking, and I was like, well, okay then, I'll see you soon, bye. And my parents said like I went back to what I was doing, and that was that. We wound up living in that house for like maybe 2 or so years when I was younger, maybe a little bit longer. My parents were saying that the stuff that was happening to me was what made them move out. Now I have to like quickly say this was in Cuthbert, Georgia, and I don't know if any of you would know where that is. It's a very, very southern part of Georgia. I'm gonna call someone who can tell you probably a little bit of this better than I can. I'm actually filming a storytime video. I was wondering if there were any like crazy paranormal stories that happened at the house back in Cuthbert.
You mean ghosty stories?
Yeah, like ghost, like ghosty stories.
I came down the basement one time and saw this orange thing go dashing across the basement.
What?
And I saw an orange thing go dashing across the basement from one side to the other. And when I came up to where it went, there was nothing there.
That's really scary. Another one, he didn't talk about on the phone, but there was an incident where I fell through our perfectly fine porch. My parents wound up having it like checked out after this, and there was no dry rotting. Like there was no explanation for why I fell through this porch. And I mean, I was 2. It wasn't like I was an extremely heavy like 2-year-old. But basically, I guess what happened was my mom had gone inside, and I was outside playing, and I was up on the porch, and it was a lifted porch, so you had to like go up. I like how like this is going up steps, but you had to go up steps to get onto the porch, and then that was how you got into the front door of the house. So I'm on the porch and I'm playing, and my mom hears this giant like crash. So she comes outside, doesn't see me, freaks out because she's like convinced I've been kidnapped. My toys are there and I'm not. And then she notices the hole in the porch and she hears me crying from below the porch, and she looks down and I had literally gone through the porch and hit the ground. And I guess that when they got me back up, my mom wound up having the porch checked out afterwards. Obviously there was no dry rotting. I had bruises on both of my shoulders after this, and my mom said it was really weird because it didn't I would have had to fall backwards to get bruises on my shoulders, if that makes any sense, head first, and I would have hurt a lot more. But I wasn't severely injured after this. I think I had a few scrapes, but there were bruises on top of my shoulders, like someone had shoved me really, really hard or smacked me on the shoulders. So that was weird, and my parents wound up keeping a very close eye on me after that when I started playing. The last story I'll tell you about, I remember very clearly. I was a little bit older, probably 7 or 8, and my family worked at a church. We had moved to a neighboring town to this small southern one that we had lived in. My parents were teachers, then my mom started working at churches as an organist. So she's an organist at this kind of neighboring town, and that church, I could write a book on weird stuff that happened at that church. There's a photo I want to show you guys so bad where I swear to you we caught something, and it wasn't even on purpose. It was my baptism photo. If I can find it, I will make a whole story time on that because it was the day my little brother was baptized, not me. I just remembered it's not my baptism photo, it's my brother's. Anyways, okay, so at this church, something really scary that happened was my parents had always made little jokes about things at the church happening that didn't make any sense. My mom would come home sometimes if we didn't go to church, my dad and my brother and I, because we didn't go every Sunday, but sometimes she would come home and my dad would be like, so how was church today? And she would be like, oh, it was eventful. And then I would hear them kind of talking about stuff moving, and at the time I didn't really understand it, but my mom would talk about things moving on their own during the sermon and everyone just getting incredibly creeped out. One time she was sitting at her organ and she reached over for her hymnal. So here's her organ. There's this little kind of desky, not a full desk, but a half desk area where all of her books and stuff are off to the side. So she reaches over for her hymnal. She's not even touching it. There's no breeze, there's no nothing like that. No one is over there. Before she even puts her hand on it, it literally just gets slowly pushed forward. She kind of stops reaching for it, so her hand is just resting up here, and it slowly moves forward, then stops. And so she kind of reaches for it again, and she's like, this is really creepy, but she's not gonna say anything in the middle of a sermon. She reaches for it again, and it goes toppling down. And it was someone had slowly pushed it. So that was really creepy, but I never saw that. But I did see on multiple occasions where people who did not actually exist. And they may have at one time, depending on your perception of ghosts and stuff, but they were not flesh and blood. So one of the scariest ones that I can remember was, it was a Saturday actually that we were at the church because my mom was practicing and my dad was kind of helping her get some stuff ready for the next day, for the sermon the next day. And my little brother and I were outside, and there were pecan trees at this church. So we literally would just sit outside and eat our weight in pecans and then burn off all that energy and play for hours on end. So it was a great time. There was a stray cat at the church that we loved to play with. So we were kind of calling for the cat, and we couldn't find it anywhere, but we were kind of wandering through the grounds of the church. Now my other stories were actually really playful, but this one is incredibly, incredibly disturbing. What I'm going to describe is very disturbing. It makes my eyes water. Do you guys ever get really scared and your eyes start watering? It makes my eyes water just thinking about it. So if you're really sensitive, please just know this is kind of creepy. It's really creepy. And we're looking for the cat, and my little brother has kind of gone ahead on the grounds and he's calling for the cat. He's a lot younger than me at this point, probably 4-ish. But I hear someone knocking from inside of the school building next to me, and there's an area where they do children's church and Sunday school and stuff, and then there's the main church building, but they're completely separate buildings. They are not together in any way. And I hear someone knocking from inside of the school building, and I look over and there is this woman standing there. I will never forget the way that she looked, you guys. She had long, kind of hairish, I would say, and it was gray, so she was an older woman, and it wasn't abnormal for me to see older women at the church because most of the church congregation was older. It wasn't a lot of kids there. You know how some churches are very youth-based or people in their 20s based? This was not that. This was a very old congregation. So all I'm seeing is her hair, so I kind of wave at her. And then I actually look at her face. And it was something, it was something out of a horror movie, y'all. It was so scary. Her eyes were so blue, they were not even a color. It was so weird. They were like translucent almost. But she looked flesh and blood. Like she wasn't like a white ghostly figure. Like she was pale, but she looked like a person. But her mouth, like if it really was like a person, I don't know how the heck they have gone their entire life like this. Her mouth was stretched into a grin where the corners of it met with like the corners of her eyes. And it was really like stretched and exaggerated. And when she saw me waving, it got even bigger and she waved back. And I screamed because she'd smiled at me and waved back. So I knew it was real. And I ran after my brother and I told him what I saw. And of course he's scared out of his wits. Like I'm scaring my poor 4-year-old little brother. We run back to my parents and my mom has the keys to the church because she comes there on a regular basis. We go into the school building, no one's there. Like no one is there. And it's still locked up. So if it was a real person, they had left, but I feel like it couldn't have been. It didn't seem like a real person. And I just remember getting this pit, like this overwhelming sense of darkness when she waved at me. When I first saw her, I didn't feel anything wrong. But when she acknowledged me, I was like, there's something really wrong here. And maybe it was the way that she looked. I don't know, you guys. Obviously I was really young, so I don't remember it like super clearly. And honestly, if I saw her now, I would probably run screaming to my parents again. But anyways, that is gonna do it. This paranormal story time got really long. I'm sorry, my paranormal stories always wind up being a lot longer than I think they will. I need to like pace myself out so I can tell you guys all of them. But if you want more scary ghost stories, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you have not already. Please, 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 please go check out Jessii V's channel. She is going to be telling you guys a very, very scary story as well. Don't forget that I'll have her link down below and subscribe to her channel as well if you love storytime videos because she does them a lot. I'm gonna go ahead and go. I love you guys so much and I will see you next time. Bye!